Hey Duluth, I'm Mayor Roger Reiner. Welcome to another episode of our podcast, Welcome to Duluth. You may remember we try to do a number of different things in this series, and that is look at some city functions, look at some strong nonprofit partnerships we have in town, kind of feature some of our major events that we all may know about, and then I try to feature a few people with really, powerful stories that are in amongst our community. And the goal is just to take something you maybe know about, but not a lot about, and dig a little bit deeper. So with me today, I'm so excited. I have Dave Schaefer. Dave comes to us from the Chester Bowl Improvement Club. Correct. We're going to dig into that a little bit. Which is a great representation of a city nonprofit partnership, and dig into that a little bit as well. But before we do, and Dave and I know each other because we sometimes if I'm running well, I will be around Dave.
We have a fun rivalry
and trail races. But I know you're not from Duluth, which is always everybody's deep secret. I'm not from Duluth either originally. So, but what brought you to town?
So I grew up in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Does that make you a Pennsylvanian? Pennsylvanian,
okay. Yes. Grew up there through high school, was in Syracuse, New York for my undergrad.
Okay.
And then I was looking for grad school. So I had a biology degree with a focus in environmental ed, and I wanted to take that a step farther. So I enrolled in the Masters of Education program at University of Minnesota Duluth.
Oh, interesting.
And it's interesting, too, because this was 1998, so very early internet. It was a scanned-in copy of the Duluth News-Tribune that let me find my apartment. I talked to somebody on the phone, did not come out here, so I never visited Duluth, did not see the town.
Major commitment, all in it?
Major commitment. So wow. I did not, I had not been in Duluth until I finished my 20-hour drive and pulled up to the apartment I had rented over the phone in Duluth.
Wow.
I did see the Northern Lights on my way up Highway 53 through Wisconsin.
Well done.
But I did not know what they were.
Not a thing in Pennsylvania?
Not at all. I mean, occasionally, but it wasn't a thing. But my introduction to Duluth, I moved everything I owned out of my car, which took about 15 minutes. And then I went for a walk. And I was just a few blocks from the base of Chester Park and found it right away. So my very first day in Duluth, I hiked up the Chester Creek trails, explored the Upper Bowl. So it was very serendipitous that I would wind up. Now I've been at Chester Bowl for 12 years.
How many times does that come up? You're like, wow, this was meant to be.
Yeah, well, and I think one of the beautiful things about Chester Bowl we'll talk about is that so many people have a Chester Bowl story. Yeah. And there's a connection in their life. And for me, it was amazing that it was my first hours in Duluth that I found the park.
What about the so given limited information, what about the UMD program was like, I'm going to move halfway across the country, sight unseen, to do this program?
Well, there are only a few master's programs that focus on kind of the environmental education and recreation aspect of things. And so I looked into a few of them, and this one was a great fit and also had an assistantship working at Stowe Elementary doing environmental education in the classroom. So as I was pondering the programs, that assistantship was a big part of it, because I'm like, I want to learn in the classroom, but I want to be able to apply it. And the school at that time had an environmental education emphasis.
So at that point in your career, or as you were thinking of starting your career, what did you see your path? Were you going to be a classroom teacher, outdoor? What were you thinking?
I wasn't sure. The goal was never to be a classroom teacher, although I did teach biology for half a year in Florida, which is an interesting time and place
to be. Let's go there.
But, I knew I wanted to be helping people enjoy outside.
Okay.
And so, my path is sort of like most people kind of wound around as I developed different skills.
Yeah.
But, I knew that I wanted to be something like nature center programming or working at zoos and aquariums or in a park, just basically helping people have what they need to be outside, learn about themselves, learn about nature in that aspect, whether it's recreation or environmental education.
So we were chatting off camera before we got started. There are two different places, and I'm going to pull both these threads, where I first remember encountering you, which, I love this about Duluth, the big small town, right? It's not a degree of separation, it's maybe a quarter. And both are 20 plus years ago. And one, I think, was either Great Lakes Aquarium or Ultimate Frisbee. So when did you end up at the aquarium?
So that
seems like a good fit.
I'm gonna actually start with Frisbee though.
Okay.
Because Ultimate Frisbee was I love running now.
Dave's now conducting the interview.
I like to be in charge of those. I did not really enjoy running for the sake of running until I was about 30. But I found Ultimate Frisbee in college at Syracuse University in 1994, and I've been playing it ever since.
Okay.
So with Ultimate, it's just been a fun way to be outside and be playing sports in a group environment, but sort of a non-traditional sport. There's no refs. It's all, self-officiated. It's the kind of people that I wanted to hang out with. Like, we'd be camping at the fields before tournaments. So Ultimate really, for me, was a gateway to a lot of different parts of life, which then led me to things like running and trail running and things like that.
Before we leave Ultimate, I'm going to guess a lot of viewers don't know what
yeah.
Ultimate is. So maybe what's the 60-second?
Yeah, 7-on-7 team sport. You play it on basically a football-sized field. You throw to your teammates, and if they catch it, you keep moving towards the end zone. 1 point for a goal. Games are usually to 15. And if the disc gets dropped, intercepted, knocked out of bounds, just like soccer, it's an immediate change of possession.
Okay.
Very fast. Moving game, and if you don't have a lot of subs, a lot of running. So in a normal weekend, you might play 4 90-minute games on Saturday and 3 on Sunday.
So not dissimilar from soccer in that, like, you're really always in motion.
Right.
So
exactly.
Interesting.
More subbing than soccer, though.
Okay. In Duluth, where would somebody be able to observe or potentially participate in Ultimate?
Yeah. So there's actually a nonprofit that runs the programming in partnership with the Parks Department. So it's called Duluth Ultimate Community. You can find them on social media. But there's a summer league. There's often a spring and a fall league. And then there are some competitive club teams that actually go to tournaments during the summer. Lake Effect Disc is a mixed team, meaning both men and women. And then there's the team that I've been playing with forever is called Dingwop, and we're kind of a hybrid Duluth Twin Cities team. And it's been fun now to get to play in the Masters and Grandmasters divisions as well.
Where are the field? I know in the past it used to be down at Park Point, but that field's not available anymore. So where do you tend to play at?
Well, it moves around. Like, there have been some tournaments at the Arlington soccer field.
Okay.
But a park out west has kind of been the traditional weekly practice place.
Okay.
But when you asked about colleges, I did not mention one criteria was there had to be an Ultimate Frisbee team, because I still had eligibility left. It's like other sports. I had 2 years of eligibility left, and so I was not going to go somewhere I could not play Ultimate in
college athlete, folks. So
not varsity, that's for sure.
So where did when you finished your program, did you go to the aquarium, or what did that transition?
Yeah, there's a little gap in there. So I finished my classwork in 2000. It took some time to wrap up the thesis after that. Also got married to my wife, Jody, in that summer. And so she started grad school to become an acupuncturist.
Oh.
And so she first started at a school down in Orlando. So we lived outside of Orlando. And that's where I was a 7th grade science teacher for half a year. It was fine. I left because her grad school was not the quality that it needed to be, and then we moved to the Twin Cities for the last 2 years of her program.
Okay.
I worked at Valley Natural Foods, the southernmost of the Twin Cities cooperatives, grocery stores, and was a buyer there for the 2 years.
Okay.
But then when she finished her program, she was going to start her own practice. We knew we needed to come back to Duluth.
Oh, nice.
And so, we started the process before I had a job, and that was right. The aquarium's had a long, tumultuous history. That was
right. Doing very, very well.
It is.
Congrats, Jay Walker.
Yes. Yeah, and Jay this would have been 2003 to 2007 I was there, and Jay was on the team back there, and he's amazing. Yeah, so I love what he and the team are doing down there. But when I came back is when it was reopening. It had been closed for the winter, so it was reopening, and I came back on the education staff.
Okay. And then we're there for how long?
There for almost 4 years.
Okay.
And then the next stop, I went from there to the Mentor Duluth program, now called Mentor North.
Okay.
And at the time, it was run through the YMCA, but now it's its own nonprofit. And the way, again, small town Duluth, the way circles go through, just the other day, we had a mentoring match, volunteering together in the concession stand at Chester Bowl.
Oh, really?
And it was so cool to see them there, just being together, doing volunteerism together, but they also, of course, ski there. And then the next volunteer shift came in, and it was another Chester Bowl parent who had previously worked in the Mentor North program. So we in this town are all so tied together.
Yeah, for sure. And fortunate to have really robust volunteerism, which we'll talk about. But so what was like when did you become connected other than living close by?
Yeah.
And I know you'll share you have, I think, one of the shortest commutes in the city.
It's a lovely commute.
Well, like when did you become engaged with Chester Bowl?
Yeah, so we moved to the edge of the park about 18 years ago.
Okay.
And it is, the other side of my road is Chester Park. My walk is 0.4 of a mile, with a lot of that either along Skyline or actually in the park walking to the chalet. So I was
going to say through the woods.
It's a nice commute.
Yeah.
If I walk, it's 9 minutes. If I bike, it's 2.
Yeah.
So it's nice to not spend time in traffic. But so I enjoyed spending time in the park. My daughter was growing up in the park, but I did not ski. I had never learned to ski. I had alpine or cross country skied a tiny bit in high school, but in Pennsylvania, that's very different than in Duluth, Minnesota.
Sure.
That means in the cornfields.
Yeah.
For the 3 days after a snowstorm, you still have snow.
Yeah.
So my daughter learned to ski. My wife had already known how to ski, so they would be on the chairlifts together. We even went to Colorado on an April vacation where I did not ski because I could not. And that next fall, as it was time to sign up for the program again, my daughter, 6 at the time, looks at me and she says, "Dad, you will ride the chairlift with me this winter." How do you say no? And my biggest concern, which talking to parents in the Chester Bowl program who are deciding whether to learn learn or not, it's the same thing. Am I going to get hurt?
Yeah.
And especially as someone who needs to run for sanity.
Yeah.
I did not, and I've had 2 ACL tears from Ultimate Frisbee, and I did not want to re-injure myself and be inactive for months and months.
Yeah.
But I went. We signed up. I went through the lesson program. Tom Storm, who was there for 40 years before he retired, he taught me to ski along with some of the instructors, and of course my 6-year-old daughter teaching me as well. So I learned the winter that the job was opening.
Okay.
I applied while I was learning to ski.
No
and
kidding.
I started in late February.
So
it's been almost 12 years. Yeah.
The first personal real engagement was when the opportunity presented itself.
For me specifically, yes. And we had been the year before. My daughter, as I mentioned, learned to ski, but she'd also done the summer camp, which was super convenient, being right by our house. Also affordable, which is a big thing for everything we do at Chester. So I valued being able to be part of the program as a parent before being on staff because I could see that perspective. Yeah. So I was hired before I really knew what I was doing hill-wise.
How did that? Was Tom sort of like, I think you're the person, or
we
just like you became aware of it, and
I became aware of it. I don't know that he knew that I was applying until we were partway through, but I do remember us kind of riding the chairlift together, talking about the position, giving me kind of a behind the scenes look. He was part of hiring, but of course the board of directors was a big part of that as well.
I think a couple things to explore. One is, it can be super challenging to follow somebody that is a legacy leader.
Yes.
So, what was that experience like? Right? Tom's beloved. We're naming a chalet after him, which we'll come back to. But
so the thing I heard over and over was, you have big shoes to fill. Because that's when you go into a position like that, it's true.
Yeah.
Because Tom had been there for 40 years, first as a city employee, and then when the nonprofit transitioned to running programs, he came back as the nonprofit director.
Right.
But what not a lot of people remember is the same thing happened to Tom. So before he started, there was Walt Mattson, who the kids either called Matt or Hey Matt. He's like, "Hey Matt," that was what everybody called him. He lived in the old field house that was there with his wife Millie, and he ran the programs, which was ski jumping at the time, for 40 years.
Yeah.
So he was there for 40 years. Tom was there for 40 years, and then when Tom was retiring, I had a year of overlap, and also Sam Loma, who's our program director, he started about 6 months later, because it took 2 of us to take over and, of course, grow the program.
Yeah.
Sam had been working various roles since high school, so about 10 years prior to that, and we've both been in our jobs now for 12 years.
Wow.
I'm not waiting 28 years to retire.
I was going to say, are you counting? How much time do you have left on your 40-year marker?
Yeah, I've done the math. I don't know how long it will be, but I will not hit 40 years.
All right, somewhere out there, the next director, just know you can shorten that timeline.
Yeah.
So, what is before we move on? What is the history on Chester Bowl? I mean, because I don't think many people remember the ski jump part of it. I mean, you might see it visually at times, but I mean, where did Chester Bowl come from?
Yeah, well, the Lower Chester became a park first, and I think it was about 1880. So picture below skyline, and then Upper Chester. The first ski jump was put in 1906.
Okay.
And there were multiple ski jumps over the years as wind took some of them. The war effort took metal from others. So there was a lot of transition. But basically from then until 2012, I believe, there were ski jumps in the park. And so for most of that time, ski jumping was the big program. And that was run by the Duluth Ski
produced
Club.
Olympian.
Many of them, yes. Yeah, the Denny family, like there's all who are still program participants. So much history with Olympians, and with Winter Olympics this time of year, it's fun to get excited about that connection we have in that history.
The only jumping I personally remember is before the flood of 2012 and the reshaping of the creek. Like there used to be a pond, and the ski season always ended with people jumping the pond.
Yeah.
Sometimes not successfully, which I thought maybe sometimes was the purpose of not being successful. So
it's called pond skimming. And actually you can still find some videos on YouTube from when that happened. So there were 2 dams along Chester Creek. One at the kind of by where the playground is now, there's a small pedestrian bridge that crosses. And that created a pond for the ski jump landing. And if you look up the hill, if folks have never seen the ski jumps when they were there, you can still see where the trees are growing in, where the landing bases were. So that would freeze over, snow would fall on top of it. That would be the landing for the ski jump. The second one is just a little bit upstream from where the stage is, and that would be the pond that was the base of the Alpine Hill. So you'd wait till the creek would freeze, and then be able to drive the groomer across, ski across anywhere you wanted. When we get to these warm spring days, when you get to late February, in the winter you have ice. The water level goes down a little bit, so there's actually a little gap. You get the runoff and the melt water, and once it gets there, it'll go over the top. So it's not that the ice is gone, it's that the water runs over it, melts the snow cover, and you wind up with anywhere from 2 inches to a foot of water.
On top of the ice.
And so, the last day of the season sometimes would be known, sometimes wouldn't, but basically would end with people being able to come down the hill and try to make it as far across the water as they could before they fell in.
I vaguely remember that. So
I did not ski yet. So that was 2012. I started there in 2014. So I never got to experience that.
Yeah. I remember also being back by the soccer field part after the flood, helping to cut trees out that had been washed down from the creek and things like that. So that was one of those great community responses, and it was fun to see how people really rallied, especially around parks, to help do storm cleanup and fix things and repair things. Before we talk about the Chalet, I don't think people always have a full appreciation for all the programming that happens at Chester. And I, as mayor, I end up talking to people a lot about, that's not actually the city. The city, in this model, the city owns the asset, including the lift. But you're the ones who bring it to life. So maybe talk a little bit about that partnership and about all the different kinds of programming year-round that happen at Chester.
Yeah, and I always look at that partnership as it allows all of us to do more together than any of us could do individually.
For sure.
And so when it's, one group being responsible for the assets and the other programming, that works so well.
Yeah.
I think that we're probably most known for the ski and snowboard program. We designed it to be affordable so that most families can afford it, and we offer scholarships to those that can't afford it. So we awarded almost $23,000 in scholarships this last year, supporting about 100 different families.
And that's money the club's raised, right?
That the club is raised because of the support of the community. So our Fall Fest gate donations, a silent auction, and other fundraising event in the fall, individual donations, grants from groups like the Boreal Waters Community Foundation. That's how we're able to do that. And so it really is the community through us supporting that vision that anyone should be able to do outdoor recreation, regardless of their income.
And it's interesting, I would say, because this is my first winter skiing at Chester, and it's been amazing.
So fun to see you on the slopes.
We were saying off camera, I was there on Sunday when it was the first Alpine race, and people were like, Mayor, are you going to put a bib on? I'm like, sure. But I mean, it's really an amazing, it's really I've known Chester from trail running, from hiking, the Chester Fall Fest, of course, the music in the parks, all the non-winter things. So when you say most people know us from the winter side of things, like for me, it's really been a new experience. And to see now Chester full season and all the seasons, and to see all the folks using it in the winter, the amazing, for me, it's like, I don't know, 1.8 miles from home. It's so close. We've gone over and skied and been like, not having it today, and then just gone home.
Yeah.
It's been amazing. But, I think through our personal conversations was when I learned about the scholarships and the season pass and the equipment. I mean, if you're a family, if you're in Duluth and you want to experience skiing, you should be thinking about Chester, because you can get skis, poles, helmet, lift ticket. If you can afford it, it's a very affordable price point. And it gets you access to all these other places. And if you can't afford it, there's the scholarships.
Right. And so if folks are thinking about this, we start the next year's process in September. So that's when people would request a scholarship and be able to find out what they were awarded before registration happens. So that people know, can this truly fit in my budget or not?
And there's a price, and then if you volunteer, that brings that price down, and then at the end you can still choose to make a donation. But
so we have our regular price, and then we have our volunteer deposit. So everyone pays that depending on family size and other things. It's either $100 or $125. And I always tell folks, we need your time more than we need your money. So if you complete your 6 or 12 hours, then you get that deposit back at the end of the season.
Because that's doing all the things. I remember when I was checking in for my gear, one of the women was saying, like, this is part of my volunteer commitment.
Right.
And it's the concessions, and it's
helping with race day.
5,500
hours of volunteer time every winter.
Wow.
And that's why we can be as affordable as we can. For-profit ski areas don't have this same resource that we do. So it lets us serve people for a lower entry point financially.
And I would argue gives you a deep, and maybe this is a nice transition to the Chalet conversation, but you have a deep stakeholder base.
Yes.
That is very interested in seeing Chester succeed. The passion I know for Chester amongst friends of mine that either have kids that go there, are volunteering, or on your board. It is a love of the place, and I think in no small part engendered by being active producers of what's happening there. So
that volunteerism really helps people recognize the value and really feel like they belong, which they do. We all do. These are public spaces. We all belong there. I remember one day I was hiking along the trail and there were some boys swimming in the creek. And I think I was wearing a Chester shirt and looked official or whatever. And one of the boys is like, "Oh, sir, is it okay that we're here?" And I'm like, "Yes, and actually you own this. This is the city park. This is your park. We're so glad you're here.
Nice.
You belong here."
Yeah.
And, I think people get that feeling with Chester, as we all should. Whether it's, primarily in the winter program or, summer camp. I grew up in a overnight summer camp environment. Ours is a day camp, but like growing up, I spent 15 summers at the same camp between camper and staff member. And so to see the lives that get changed in a summer of summer camp is just incredible.
Well, and you're doing similar work. Between your summer camp and I know the cadets are, kids who have grown up skiing at Chester, and now I was so impressed. We were there on the Luminary hike day, and, it was all your youth leaders that were out making sure those things were lit and helping people show where they were. And it was just, it was so impressive, because you're not only, this is helpful to your operations, of course. It's students giving back, becoming leaders, being also your next generation of stakeholders. You're able to do multiple things that, frankly, that if it were a city operation, we just wouldn't be able to do. We're not shaped to do what you can do as a nonprofit. So
the cadet model, and just to go in a little bit more for details for people watching, but 7th through 10th graders, and it is a leadership development program. They don't necessarily know that, but that's what it is. And so it is, it is taking the kids who've grown up here or those who haven't. Some people come in not having been part of the Chester community, especially in summer, but giving them opportunities to be role models, to role model peace in the park to the younger participants, to be actively helpful in the things that we need help with. And then it prepares them if they do want to work, whether it's, we have cadets in the summer for summer camp, like junior counselors, and in the winter. So if they decide they want to work here, we've developed this workforce. And when we go to these ski area association meetings, a lot of folks are really struggling getting enough workers. We have the opposite problem, where we have more people that want to work here than we have spots, because we're developing them. And so our staff has really grown this cadet program in the last year. And part of that is we've received funding from the Chamber of Commerce to do that, because they see that value in workforce development, youth development, creating tomorrow's leaders right now when they're teenagers. But we also meet a gap in a programming need. There's not much for 7th to 10th graders to do. Nobody wants to pay for the 13-year-old to have summer childcare, but they're going to be bored if they're home alone. But if they can come to summer camp and be leaders and help out, it solves all of those problems at once.
And the same thing in the winter to see them kind of running the hill. The responsibility level. But multiple times already I've been like, oh, there's a future steward. Steward not just of this program, not just of Chester, but I think of our public spaces. So, I mean, I think that's an impressive part of what you're doing. So let's make sure we talk about talk about the chalet. So this is very exciting. This is not, we've gone from aspirational to this is a thing. And it's happening. So
our chalet, people love it. So many memories have been made there.
I love it. I'm going to tell you, the first time in the winter from the top of the hill, seeing it lit up at night, I was like, oh, this is like little mini Alpine right in the heart of Duluth. It was adorable.
And it is, you say the word heart, and that's also, the chalet is the heart of the park, and it really is the center of everything we do. At the same time, it's a tool. It's not about a building itself. It's about what it allows to happen in the park. And for us, the building isn't serving its purpose anymore. It's too small. That Sunday when you were there, there was barely room to walk inside. That's how packed it was. It's not ADA accessible, and our main gathering space is on the upper level. So if you can't get up the stairs, you cannot get there. It is falling apart, and it is not a very sustainable building.
And what is the age on the current chalet?
It's about 52 years old, which it is weathered faster than its age. So it definitely is at a point where it needed an upgrade for all those reasons, to make sure we have a building that will last for generations, to make sure we have a much more a good building as far as resource use goes, to make sure anybody can use it, because it really needs that to be a true public space. And our programs have grown so much. In the last dozen years, we've doubled in size. And so we just don't have space.
So as people think about, if folks haven't seen, so I guess two questions. If they haven't seen what this will look like, where can they go? Because I know it's online. And then secondly, as you compare and contrast, what will the new chalet do for you that the existing one doesn't?
Well, details on our programs are at chesterbowl.org, so if people want to find out more about the ski program. But then our website for the Chalet project is growingupchester.org. And that's both literal, because we're going from 2 floors to 3, and also metaphorical, because we're growing these next generations of people who love the park. And so really, it will let all of us use the park better. It'll serve our users better. It gives more space so our programs can continue to grow, and that's both summer and winter. We didn't really talk much about the one-day Fall Fest that has 11,000 people come out to the park in September, or the concert series that's in conjunction with the city of Duluth, but it does serve those events as well. So we really just need a space that will let the programming happen. And so to do that, we are basically doubling the square footage. We're able to expand the footprint a little bit, not much, because we're so close to Chester Creek. There's a road behind the building, and there's a steep hill right behind that. So we're going from 2 levels to 3 to get us that extra square footage.
Will you be able to have like more classroom space or?
The biggest difference is the main level will have about double the open space.
Okay.
So that's where, whether it is summer camp, we're only inside if the weather absolutely requires it. But
Yeah.
we need a place to put kids when there's a thunderstorm.
Yeah.
So we can hold more kids in there, and then in the winter to have more space to come in and warm up. Obviously everything is becoming fully accessible. We're adding an elevator. The bathrooms will be much more usable, but it's just giving us more room for our programming. Also, we went from being, when Tom Storms, right before his last year, it was just him year round. And then when he retired, Sam and I were both year round. We're now up to 5 of us.
Wow.
An AmeriCorps member, Elena Stanley, who grew up as a Chester Bowl kid, was a cadet, and now is running a lot of the cadet supplemental programming. Joel Taberzi is our operations manager. Delaney Krieger is our programs manager. They both came in September and are just doing an incredible job running all of our programs. And then Sam and I, having been part of it for the last 12 years, as we've grown, we've needed more staff space as well as more programming
So
space.
now, is anyone still living in the chalet?
No, that ended.
So this was a thing, folks.
Yeah.
People used to live in buildings in our parks.
So Tom Storm and his wife Cindy lived there for 17 years, and as their kids were growing up, they were there. And then there were park
Because if you come in on if you're on the second floor, where people might be familiar with the concessions are and things like that, like that's behind that is where the apartment was.
We call it the secret lair now, but it was an apartment, and the park caretaker would do things around the park, cleaning the bathrooms, picking up garbage, making sure the doggy bag containers had bags for people to take, and in exchange they were paying very little in rent.
Yeah.
And so that model
Might
just
be
shifted.
something to reconsider.
And Chester was
And it was not unique at the time. That happened in multiple places throughout Duluth. I've talked to several people who like, oh yeah, I used to live in the community club at Irving Park. I'm like, what? Yeah.
It's a great opportunity to live right in the middle of the woods.
Yeah. So where are we at in the process? I know if you come into Chester now, you'll see a zoning sign related to, so like this is in motion.
So the zoning sign is down because we went through the planning commission. We got the variance because we're so close to the creek.
Yep.
And so we are in the very final design stages with LHB. We've been working with them on this project since the beginning. And so by the end of next week, we will have completed drawings for the entire construction project, and then it will go out for bid the next week.
Okay.
And this is part of the beauty of this Chester City connection because the city owns the building.
Yep.
We've been able to do private fundraising through a nonprofit that's tax deductible, and the city has been able to run this process. So the city will bid the project, and by mid-March, we'll have a contractor selected, and construction will start mid-April.
And let's run through let's talk a couple things. Let's run through the numbers because I know we're not quite there yet, a little bit more. So how total price on the project, I know there's some state funding, a lot of local private donations, and like I said, a little bit of gap still to complete.
Well, so we don't have our final price tag until we get the bids, of course. But we know it's a project that, including architecture fees, is well over $3 million. We were able to do fundraising as a nonprofit to get to a point where we had about, it was just under $1 million raised that let us apply for state of Minnesota money. So Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources, that was the Get Outdoors vote 2 Novembers ago for the constitutional amendment. Basically, when you play the lottery and lose, your money goes to conservation projects like the Superior Hiking Trail, Hawk Ridge, and Chester Chalet project. So that community support was leveraged to a $2.3 million grant through the state of Minnesota.
And I just want to impress for people, having been in the legislature, the fact that there was already money there is a big deal. The legislature likes being last money in, not first money. It's like, is this a thing? Is it actually going to happen? Oh, the community's willing to put $1 million on the table, private donation. So like that was significant.
And we would not have been able to apply without a certain level of match. We had higher than the minimum, which makes you be more competitive.
Sure.
And we've continued fundraising, so we've raised about $1.4 million from the community through the nonprofit. And depending on the price tag, we estimate we have about $200,000 left to raise.
Okay.
And we obviously would like to get that as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And so whenever folks hear about the Chalet and love it, we hope they're motivated to support it, which again can be done through that Growing Up Chester website.
I was going to say, and we'll make sure that both the link to the parks or to Chester programming as well as the Growing Up Chesters and the comments for the podcast. So work will begin this spring. How will you manage all of the activities, busy place, with all of that? Because if you've been to Chester, it can be constrained.
Yes,
There's
a lot in a small space.
Yeah.
The first thing that will happen is summer camp. And so we've been running 3 sites, the one out of the Chalet, a group at the end of the road that we call Upper Chester. There's a garage in the field up there. Yeah. And then a group at Lower Chester, the community center down just a block up and over from Burrito Union.
Okay.
And so we will we still will serve 125 kids a week. That was our goal was to keep serving the same number of kids because we know there's not enough childcare in this town.
Right.
So we'll serve about 60 kids at Lower Chester. And then we have another site that will serve the other 65 that we're just finalizing the details with that organization. We're not ready to say where it is yet, but within the next couple weeks that will be out, and then registration will start mid-March.
Okay.
So that'll be 1 year that we won't have camp in Upper Chester, but of course we've got one group down in Lower Chester.
And will the construction timeline allow you to get back there then?
For the winter.
Really?
Yes. And the project is both a big project and a small project. Okay. Because at 5,200 square feet, it's kind of like a big house.
Okay.
But it's a big house with an elevator and a sprinkler system.
Okay.
So, it kind of bridges both worlds, but the contractors we talked with have all said this is about a 4 to 6 month project.
Oh, they're like,
yeah.
Not that big. You're like, big, it's a big deal.
It is a big deal that we want them to get done in a small time.
Yeah.
It will impact, so the Music in the Park concert series had been split the last few years with 5 weeks at Chester, 5 at Lincoln. This summer it will all be at Lincoln Park.
Oh.
And the stage,
note, folks.
Yes, go to Lincoln Park on Tuesdays this summer.
Okay.
The Chester stage is also getting reconstructed. That is a stage that also was not accessible. And so now it will be. So people can get up on that stage regardless of their mobility. Yeah. So it made sense to do those at the same time, of course. And then our other big event, Fall Fest in September, that event we will be able to have, we use the Chalet minimally for that.
But you use every other space.
Yes.
So if you've not been to Chester Fall Fest, you are missing out. So
you're missing out of 130 craft vendors, over a dozen food trucks, live music, all in one day.
So Dave, here's what I've learned in the last few years at Chester Fall Fest. Yes. Don't be in a booth. Because you just don't get to see anything. Yeah. It's like I will go, whether it was being in a campaign booth or whether it was volunteering last year with Dufta, I get done and be like, I didn't see anything or eat any of the foods because it's basically a mini state fair. I mean, it's amazing. How many, in addition to the booths, how many people do you estimate come through there in a day?
We estimate about 10,000 a year.
Wow.
Yeah, it is incredible. And so again, tips for people maybe coming next year.
Don't park on Skyline.
Do not park in the neighborhood on Skyline. If you're close enough to walk or bike, do it. But we run shuttles continuously from UMD. Yeah. And that it's free. That's the way to go. It doesn't gum up the streets. It's less stressful for you.
Park in a parking lot, take a bus. Yeah.
Just imagine 9,999 other people also trying to find parking. Not going to work.
It's just, it's funny to watch people like circle on Skyline Boulevard, which is narrow to begin with. Yes. And as a total aside, this will be another conversation, but we redid that portion of Skyline Boulevard by Anger Tower to create a better balance between cars and people. And as an avid runner, which I know you are as well, running that section of Skyline by Chester, every time I'm like, we should think about something here because it's
really tight.
It's beautiful. It's curvy, but it's very tight. And I don't know what it is. Everybody needs to drive fast now. So, if you're not in a car, it feels a little bit dangerous. And you have the turning actions of people using the park.
Right.
So what are in the year ahead, other than the Chalet, what are you most excited about?
Ooh. Other than the Chalet has been all-consuming recently, which is exciting. I think
this is mental yoga. I'm making you access another part of your brain.
I think for me, it's not just any one year. I just love seeing people be out in nature, feeling at home, feeling like they have a place that they're part of the community because they are.
Yeah.
And I know that even with the Chalet changing programming a little bit, it still happens.
Mm-hmm.
Every day you have hundreds or more of people in the park enjoying that space. So for me, I just love to see that happening, to hear the stories of people who are connected to the park, and knowing that the park itself plus our programming truly changes people's lives.
Well, I would argue that Chester is the most Duluth-y. I mean, really, I mean, I think of other parks and they sort of have their niche. But Chester is all the things. It is the Fall Fest, it's the concert series, it's the trail running, it's the hiking, it's the winter programming, and it's literally in the center of town. It is so easy to access from multiple, campuses aren't far away. You've got neighborhoods all around it. I think if folks don't know Chester well, they really are missing out because it's really, I think, a jewel within our park system.
The term urban wilderness, because it's, one of the things I remember from early in Chester when I was still in grad school is I would be hiking the lower Chester trails and you feel like you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And yet you're 100 yards from a house that you can't see or hear.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Except maybe in the winter. And now
right. Right. But to have that sort of psychological escape, to just be out in nature and to be, in the summer, jump in the creek. Yeah. The number of swimming holes along Chester Creek is just amazing. Most people know 2 or 3. There's a dozen quality places to jump in the creek for sure.
And I think, something you touched on that I think we're so fortunate, I say all the time, Duluth's competitive advantage isn't 18 softball fields. It is the Chesters.
Yeah.
One of my favorite trail runs, I call it the trifecta because it is Chester, Bagley, and Hartley. And in an 8-mile run, I can hit 3 of these parks that are basically linked together with little bits of urban in between. And you don't have to go far in Duluth to be able to engage the outdoors and the wilderness. So, well,
Dave,
Dave,
I love that kids grow up in that environment.
Yeah, and I think, and it's our job as stewards to continue, which I love about what you're doing, is give them the opportunities because it's not always, there are financial barriers for some. So things like your scholarship program to help everyone in this community where we might have winter 6 months out of a year, not just engage with it, but learn to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So.
And I should have mentioned with summer camp too, we do offer scholarships for summer camp as well. We have about $35,000 in summer camp scholarships. Some of that, again, is from fundraising, as I had mentioned, but 2 specific grants. We received funding from Essentia Health for summer camp scholarships specifically, and also the Boreal Waters Community Foundation Weatherby Fund, both supporting summer camp scholarships. Scholarship registration or requests happen before registration. We don't have an exact date, but late February, there will be about a 1.5 week period that if people want to send their kid to camp and maybe aren't sure if they can afford it, they can request a scholarship from our website. They'll find out if they received a scholarship or not and how much before registration opens, because we really just want people in the park.
Yeah. And again, folks, we'll have both of those links so you can check them out. Okay, Dave, as we come to the end, this is the hardest part of this whole thing. Not for me, for you. So, kind of a la the Actors Studio, we have the same questions we ask every guest.
Sure.
And you were sharing with me before we got started, you watched a previous podcast, but
I didn't make it to the end.
No, the first question is, what is the best place in Duluth to get pizza?
So I don't eat gluten, so that automatically restricts things
tougher.
A little bit. I will say we have personally had the best gluten-free crust recipe. So if anybody knows me outside of the podcast, I'd be happy to share the recipe if you want to make your own. But I probably one of the Pizza Luce gluten-free options.
Okay.
Although I will say Topper's Pizza, which is right by the park, Topper's has surprisingly good, not only gluten-free, but also vegan cheese pizzas.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Noted. Because been to Topper's before, but didn't think of that.
Yeah.
So, are you a donuts or ice cream person?
Oh, I used to be a donuts person. Now I'm a potato chip person. I'm going outside the box. Potato chips, 100%. Or French fries. depending.
So you went from sweets to salt.
Yes, 100%.
Right. Well, I am very much still in the sweets category. So my answer is both and, right?
Yes.
That's a glazer with ice cream in the middle. But what is your favorite Duluth event of the year?
It's got to be the... okay, I'm going to pick one, but I'll tell you what the other one is too. Favorite Duluth event of the year is the Wild Duluth races. October weekend, they have on Saturday, there's a 100K and a 50K. On Sunday, there's a half marathon and a 10K. Incredible, but kind of under the radar event. It's on the Superior Hiking Trail. Beautiful views, so much fun whether you're running or volunteering. Kim and Andy Holick own and run the races, and they're such good human beings, so I love supporting it. Grandma's
In
Marathon.
fact, as we do this, we're in the middle of the winter series.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
now, are you a wild man?
I have not done that yet. So if you do a Saturday race and a Sunday race, you get a hatchet. You're considered a wild
you're
man.
knighted.
And I
Wild person.
Yeah.
It's like,
So I've done the 100K once, which I love. I need to do it again when I can, it takes a lot of training to run 100 kilometers. The 50K race is kind of my every year, but one of these years I need to get the hatchet and do wild man. Runner-up, though, is Grandma's Marathon weekend.
Yeah.
I love that, too. They're just very different kinds of events within the town, and I love participating in both.
of course, this year's the Big 50. So which races are you doing?
I'm running the full. It's also the year I turned 50. I have just turned 50, so it feels like a good serendipitous thing to do.
All right. I am also doing the full. I will not be anywhere near you. So my goal is to run Grandma's, race the Kernel, which is a trail marathon, and survive the Voyager, because I've never done an ultra.
That sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, let's see if I have the time on my feet to get there. So.
And you'll do that by training for the NMTC trail races in the spring, which are also great running events.
Every Wednesday.
Yeah.
Favorite Duluth view?
Ooh. There are several of them, but that same stretch of trail we're talking about, where the Wild Duluth races are basically from Ely's Peak to Grand Avenue, Chalet at Spirit Mountain. That whole ridge line is my favorite stretch of trail, including the Loop Trail by Ely's Peak. And I don't think my favorite view is actually Ely's Peak. It's on the back end, on the loop portion. You get even some broader views back around the side as well.
Back into the St. Louis Valley.
Yeah.
The fall.
But that section, my absolute favorite place to run in the whole world.
Oh, I need to spend more time. I don't know it as well as I need to not fear getting lost.
Well, if you're training for a 50-miler in July, you will have plenty of time on trail.
So, and the last question is, where do you take folks that are visiting Duluth?
Ooh, well, I think you have to. You have to give variety. So first, you have to go to Lake Superior. Whether you choose beach or sand beach or rock shore, you have to take people to Lake Superior. At least I feel like I have to. I always take people in Chester.
Sure.
Because no matter what time of year it is, there's something going on. So
it's probably in your contract. I mean,
it is not, but it probably sounds like it. Probably sounds like I have to mention it, but it's true. Having lived there for almost 2 decades now, it's just I love showing people like this is how close I am to my work and where my family has grown up. Like it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. So probably those 2 places, and then if I can take people on unexpected trails.
Nice.
Places people might not know, like the great trails in Jay Cook that a lot of people don't realize are there.
Well, great. Even in the middle, one of the really fun things last year was highlighting the old Lost Incline Stairway that's in my neighborhood that people don't know about, and you take them and they're like, what? And then you get to tell the history. That sense of place is really special in Duluth, and I think it's something, again, that is really an advantage we have over maybe some other places. So,
and just how connected all of our recreation is. I like to point that out because, with the Duluth Traverse now spanning the city, with you being able to do the 3-park run, or, all these different ways to connect things. And then again, that's all of us working together, city, nonprofits, people who donate their time or their money.
For sure.
We all do better together than any of us could individually, and that's what makes people want to live here and want to stay here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Dave, this has been a blast. We've known each other, but I've learned new things about you and getting ready for today and in visiting today. So, and friends, if you go to Chester, you're going to see Dave. He is there a lot. So thanks for taking the time to talk about yourself and talk about the programming. And don't forget, put one more plug in. If you love Chester, think about helping with the Growing Up Chester campaign. Again, we'll have information for you below because we're so close and it's so exciting to see the upgrade from the old Chalet to the new Tom Storm Chalet. So,
and I should mention Tom Storm still ski patrols with us.
Yeah.
And now he's been there with his grandkids, so he's part of he lives in the neighborhood. He's part of the community.
Does he appreciate being living history, or?
We'd have to ask him that to be sure. But the chalet, it already has been the Tom Storm Chalet, and with the new building, there was no question. It will be the Tom Storm Chalet.
Yeah. Wow. Dave, it's been great. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
And Duluth, thanks for tuning in for another podcast of Welcome to Duluth, and we will catch you again on the next one.